Affirmative Reaction Podcast. 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 Affirmative Reaction Podcast.
Welcome to the Affirmative Reaction Podcast. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, share if you like what you hear. But without further ado, we're going to get started with what we like to call headline reactions, where we read some headlines from some news sites, see if we will be clickbaited into reading whatever it says.
That's the name of the game, clickbait these days.
Yeah. I mean, if you looking for something specific, I guess it really don't matter. You just read it anyway to get the information. But most of these sites they try to Jedi mind trick you into reading some of their news, and not even really reading the news. They just want you to look at the
right. Guess what I heard, and it's just the first sentence.
And a lot of times, a lot of people do that. Even people I know, they do that to me, and they be like, "Ah, you seen this?" And I'll be like, "Yeah." And they'll say something. I'll be like, "Well, did you actually read what it said? It actually told you something completely different than what the headline said."
Exactly.
But without further ado, we are on CNN. Whatever their thing is, forget about it. But CNN, and the biggest and boldest headline that they have is Trump powers GOP schism over Taylor, Greene, and Cheney. CNN can't quit Trump. They really can't.
His picture's right there. He hasn't even done anything, and there's pictures on the front page.
Hey.
He hadn't been in office in how many days now?
The Bidens pay their respects to fallen Capitol Police officer Brian Sicknick. Hey.
Sicknick.
I guess. I
read somewhere. I mean, this is
tragic.
Another clickbait thing that I didn't read, but I saw a headline that said that CNN's ratings are down around 50% ever since Trump's left.
Yeah, I mean,
so,
that'd be something to look into. I mean,
I never watched it anyway.
That sounds believable, but
yeah, because what are you gonna watch now? There's nothing. Like, they're just trying to create controversy now.
But I mean, that kind of just goes to show you how much they created this big Trump, the Trump derangement. You know what I'm saying? It's never been like that with any other president. So, why Ted Cruz is backpedaling on challenging election results? Because AOC is bullying him.
Bully?
Jeff Bezos is stepping down as Amazon CEO.
Speaking of which, opinion. AOC nailed it.
Nailed it.
They must be talking about that.
I guess they're talking about the live video or whatever she put out on Instagram a couple of days ago, where she's talking about how she was detailing her experience during the Capitol Riot. She almost died.
Oh, wow.
She threw in there a little Me Too stuff. I mean, I don't want to make too much fun of what she said, but she did say that she too was a victim of
She's got a brand to sell too, though.
She was a victim of sexual assault, and it kind of reminded her of that. So,
well, to be honest, the only video of hers I ever want to see is from OnlyFans, so she needs to get on that.
I think that's kind of ironic that, or I'm not.
She
sure.
says it's a good living.
I'm not. Yeah, right. I'm not sure that she will be a victim of some sort of sexual assault, but she is a proponent behind sex work,
right?
which can lead to sex trafficking and all that good stuff. So that's ironic. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
No, that's for another day.
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Wait till some case comes up and she's all about it, and we'll see.
House GOP weighs removing Greene from committees. All right.
Who is Green? The
Ma-
weirdo.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh man, she's full blown Karen.
Yeah, she is, but she's the Republicans part. She the Republicans party. She is the Republican Party's Maxine Waters.
Oh, I'm not arguing with that.
Like she's a crazy one. It's
You could throw Nancy Pelosi into that mix too.
For real, just younger.
Yeah,
Dude.
not by much.
Affirmative Reaction Podcast.
Man.
I got two thoughts about this. First of all, the headline is, "Who are the rich white men institutionalizing transgender ideology?"
Have at it, man.
For me, this article is, it's an opinion piece.
Mm-hmm.
From the Federalist. But for me, it's a way to try to explain what's going on, which seems like at a rapid pace every day we're hearing something new, some new word, some new law, some new whatever.
Yeah.
And it's a way of trying to explain that this isn't happening organically, that this is being manipulated at the highest levels for money purposes. And many industries are all tied in together. Hand in hand.
Follow the money.
But the other thing I was thinking about after I read this was, what about all these other movements in the past? Were they organic, or were these also started by some big money people in order to make money as well?
You can certainly say that a lot of the movements certainly did start out organic, you know what I mean?
Right.
For some real cause. And I guess after a time you start seeing the fruits of it, and the people who like to remain relevant, who put a lot of their eggs in that basket, they need to remain relevant. And if you can create a market for it to keep the market going, you do it at somehow, some way. But this, everything else I still get. I get it, but I don't get this one.
Well, I think the whole thesis to this is that once someone decides they want to be trans or whatever, that is a lifelong dedication to medical, be it surgeries, be it pills, whatever.
Right.
They have you for life. And one of my old friends, he's a conspiracy nut. But occasionally he did say some truth, and one of them was that there's no money in the cure. The money is in the treatments. So they don't profit by curing something.
Right.
Like cancer, there's not a cure for cancer, but there's many, many treatments that'll keep you going there until you die. They'll bleed your bank account.
Right.
So the whole premise to this is very similar, how these rich white people at the top are creating this whole agenda for trans movement in order to line their pocketbooks, more or less.
Yeah, but before you start digging into that, is the white man part relevant? Is the white part relevant?
Just based on the people they name in this article.
Right.
Who all are either white men or white trans women or men or whatever. So, there might be other ones, but the whole focus of this article are on the white ones.
The white man. that white man, boy. So which white men does it say are at the forefront of this transgender?
Well, I've never heard of any of them except for George Soros.
Right.
Warren and Peter Buffett. That's another one. Basically just really rich people. It goes into this whole thing about how these industries, cosmetic and medical and all these things, and schools are all tied in together to create this idea that I mean, they're just creating a new reality in order to sell something. I mean, what better if you can tell a kid that you need this surgery, or you need these hormones, or you need this, and then for the rest of your life,
Right.
you're going back. It's like a drug dealer. One of the things I highlighted is it behooves us all to look at what the real investment is in prioritizing a lifetime of antibody medical treatments for a minuscule part of the population, building on infrastructure for them, and institutionalizing the way we perceive ourselves as human beings before being human becomes a quaint concept of the past.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean or how you apply this to this situation, but I just feel like this is. I don't want to say it's a complete stretch, but as far as some of the things that we're seeing in the news now, with allowing trans men to compete in women's sports is really sad. I was looking at an article the other day. This track, it was related to track, and for some strange reason, you're seeing a lot of this pop up in track. And this is unrelated to, I think I mentioned another track situation up in Connecticut where these two boys who ran track decided to identify as women and then won like 15 state titles.
Naturally.
But this other one is a Jamaican track athlete, and I have to pull the article up. I probably should have saved it, but I didn't think we were gonna be. I didn't think this was.
Yeah, I dropped this one on last second.
It was gonna pop up, but this track athlete, as a male in college, ran for like 3 years, something like that, as a male in college, and only placed like 60th or some shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then as a female, started beasting. So yeah, this CeCe Fair.
I see no benefit by being trans, he said. Or she said. Which one?
CeCe Fair is a Jamaican-American trans athlete who in 2019 became the first openly transgender woman to win the NCAA title, running for Franklin Pierce University.
Right, we'll go at it said at the top. First competed in the men's division from 2016 and 17, but after coming out and beginning her transition, she was allowed to compete in the women's.
Had to take a year of testosterone suppression treatment before they could compete as a woman. And so look, this is what I was saying. And when the CeCe Fair ran as a man in the 400-meter hurdles, you ranked 200th in 2016 and 390th in 2017 in NCAA Division II. Started running as a woman in 2019, ranked 3rd in 60-meter hurdles, 7th in the 200-meter dash, finished 6th in 60-meter hurdles, and then finished 1st in 400-meter hurdles, when 2 years before, while competing as a boy, ranked 200th. And then 3 years later, competed as against women. Let's stop saying competed as a woman. These are right. Men competing against women. 3 years later, was the national champion in the 400-meter hurdles. That's outrageous. I mean, if this is supposed to, I'll say this: I just want to say this, and if you, I'm triggered. Trigger me timbers. If you want to identify as a woman, there's nothing wrong with that. But you cannot compete with women in women's sports because you're not a woman. Now, I think I mentioned this to my girl. I was like, I guess a bit of a kicker to that, or what would make more sense is if these, and this is not necessarily my thoughts. It's just me thinking of how this could make sense. 'Cause I don't necessarily agree with this. It only would make sense if these were trans people who started transitioning as kids and been on testosterone as kids. But this was a male,
a full grown
in 2016, a full competing against males and only finished 200th. And then 3 years later, started taking testosterone suppression treatment for a year after being a male for
how many years?
Seriously. And this ain't no just dainty. This wasn't just like no little dude. This is a 6'2", a 6'2" dude. And so now you say, I'm a woman. I've taken this testosterone suppression treatment. And another thing I was reading in that about that is that in college, there is no set standard, or they don't measure the level of testosterone. All it is you have to just be on testosterone suppression for a full year before you can compete as a woman. And the difference in the Olympics is they measure, there's a certain level of testosterone you can have, or not. I think, it is the Olympic Athletic Committee or something like that. But just 3 years later, after competing as a male, lo and behold, finished first in the 400-meter hurdles. Like I said, this reminds me of that episode of South Park when they had Macho Man.
Oh, yeah.
He competed in he was the champion in every single women's sport. Track, basketball, wrestling.
Satire, but it's true.
Man, you heard about the trans MMA fighter who broke a girl face?
Recently?
Like 3 years ago.
If it's the one Joe Rogan was talking about, yeah, I forgot her name.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's outrageous.
Yeah, I'm 100% against that. And like you said, you can say whatever you want to say about who you are and what. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But this is different. The rules the rules are different here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Fallon Fox
breaks opponent's skull. The men don't even do that to each other. You never heard of John Bones Jones breaking the skull of
Tyson
Daniel Cormier.
Tyson never broke nobody's skull.
He bit an ear though. I guess it don't matter what your gender is. You can bite it. Any gender can bite an ear.
Ortiz didn't break nobody's skull.
That's outrageous.
Brock Lesnar didn't break nobody's skull.
Why not have their own sports league?
The trans league.
Right. I guess
There's just not enough of them. That's the problem.
That's sad. That's sad, man. They come into these.
You can't even field
sports.
a team. There's not even that many.
You seen that article I sent you about the WNBA player having top surgery?
Yeah. And I read it. I was like, what the hell is top surgery?
That's what it clickbaited me, dude.
It clickbaited me, too.
I was like, what?
Now I know what top surgery is.
That's when you get your boobies removed. What is that going to do for the sports bra industry?
Affirmative Reaction Podcast.
This is the second edition of what we like to call
Snowflake of the Week.
That's funny. Snowflake of the Week. And my snowflake of the week is Chris Celeziza.
Oh.
Chris Celeziza.
Wait, what?
I think
How many Z's, L's, and I's are that same name?
It is literally like 4 L's and 4 Z's in his name. However,
It
Chris,
is a he, right?
I think he identifies as a he.
I don't know. I never heard of this.
I don't know what his pronouns are.
CNN editor at large.
But he is a CNN editor at large. And last week, amid the GameStop stock surge, he put out an article titled How Trumpism Explains the GameStop Stock Surge.
Listen, I personally have followed the GameStop stock surge quite closely, and at no point at all did Trump enter the picture at any point. All the articles I read, all the Reddit posts I read, have nothing to do with Trump.
Nothing to do with Trump. But this is my snowflake of the week for.
So he's comparing the GameStop thing to
for
Trump,
him to compare
white supremacy.
The GameStop stock surge.
Say that 5 times.
How Trumpism explains the GameStop stock surge. Chris Salaziza, you are the snowflake of the week.
Snowflake of the week.
This just reminds me of that scene in Brokeback Mountain where I can't quit you. Oh man! All right, who you got?
Well, my snowflake of the week is
Snowflake of the week.
Gavin Newsom of California.
Man. Gavin Newsom.
Now, I don't have an article, but I'll tell you what. This guy has botched every single thing you can possibly botch in a leadership position since he's been in office. And now the signatures for the recall are very close.
Yep.
And if anybody out there doesn't know what a recall is in California, if you get enough legitimate signatures, you can oust whoever is in the government and have a new election.
Any elected official.
And it is very close to that point, and the deadline is the middle of March. And because of that, Mr. Yoga Pants has gone against a lot of things that he has been dead set for, trying to appease the masses because he knows it's inevitable that he's about to get ousted. So he lifted all the stay-at-home orders, all the outdoor dining, all these things that have been placed for so many months without any kind of like, oh, the numbers are going down or whatever. Like he's just doing it so maybe people won't sign the last few 100,000 ballots that are needed.
Oh no, they're gonna.
And even there was a guy he got.
They're gonna get them signatures.
There was a murderer he let out of prison. Now he's gone against that and put him back in prison because so many people are outraged about it. He's just doing everything he can to try to save his hide. And I'm sorry, sir, you're going to be in freaking coffee bean and leaf in your yoga pants listening to, I don't know, the Imagine Dragons or whatever you did before now. You can get the hell out of this state. And you know what happened the last time somebody got recalled? The governor got recalled in California? Arnold Schwarzenegger got put in power.
Wow.
So,
wow.
So I'm
speaking of
very
that, that
excited
was my
to
last
see.
snowflake.
So
Snowflake
mine.
of the week.
Oh man, what is the French Laundry situation?
Oh, that's when Gavin Newsom, like, he tells us, oh, you don't go to restaurants, always wear your mask, blah, blah, blah. And then he gets caught at this ultra-elite restaurant inside with 20 of his best buddies with no masks on.
No
and
social
somebody
justice
took a
distance.
picture of it, and he denied it until that picture came out, and then he said, oh, I'm sorry.
No social justice distancing.
No, none of that. No triple masks.
Affirmative Reaction Podcast.
I'm not sure if you heard, but Black Lives Matter Inc. was nominated for a Nobel Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize, which I find extremely ironic. And the bottom line is Black Lives Matter, the organization, do not deserve a Nobel Prize. And I think even just the nomination is kind of a joke.
I'm not familiar enough with how the nomination process goes and who is part of that.
Mm-hmm.
From my limited understanding, I think it's people in Norway.
Something like that,
so
yes.
What would they know about anything that goes on here besides what they see on?
Well, I don't know. You have to usually make some sort of global impact, and Black Lives Matter Inc. is global. They have chapters all over the world. They have chapters in Paris, London, China.
Do they also burn down those cities?
They do riot and protest.
Really?
Out there, yeah, yes, they do. Yes, they do. Same with Antifa. It's pretty much like I'm not saying that these two are directly connected, but
they're definitely bedfellows.
Generally speaking, exactly. Generally speaking, where there's an Antifa chapter, there's a Black Lives Matter chapter as well. However, they have been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize by a Norwegian member of parliament. So a Norwegian politician nominated them for the Nobel Peace Prize, and he credits. I have an article pulled up by Jason Rantz, an op-ed in Newsweek. After a violent summer, Black Lives Matter doesn't deserve a Nobel Prize, and I have to agree with this guy. So Peter Eddy, a Norwegian member of parliament, made the nomination. He told The Guardian that he credits BLM for its tremendous achievement in raising global awareness and consciousness about racial injustice. Now, let's say that's true. That they have raised awareness and consciousness about quote unquote racial injustice, but
at what cost?
Exactly. And there's an answer to at what cost. And that cost, according to Axios, which is according to insurance claims filed in a number of cities, from businesses being burnt, merchandise being lost, you name it, whatever loss a business can incur from a riot, buildings burnt, merch being burnt, people not being able to work, you still having to pay an insurance, unemployment claims, all that stuff. It has totaled over $1 billion, $1 to $2 billion in damages. And this is and now one might say that, well, it wasn't just Black Lives Matter completely doing the rioting. I'll say BS, because everyone knows that this happened during all of the Black Lives Matter protests. That, like I always say, during the day it is mostly peaceful, but once the sun went down and it turned night, buildings burnt. CNN, NBC doing reports from in front of burning buildings. Oh, as you can see, it's mostly peaceful, mostly fiery, but generally speaking, it's been mostly unruly. And you see fires in the background. You see people throwing stuff. You hear
people running out of Target with TV.
Seriously, man. In Philly, after a guy was shot by the police, it was a riot and looting session. It was a fella walking down the street with a hand truck and wheeling it was a fridge. It was either a fridge or like a washing machine or something. I'm like, that's outrageous. However, that same organization who was at the forefront of all that, and let me backtrack a little bit and say what I'm saying seems eerily similar to what they're trying to charge Trump with like inciting riots and stuff based off of rhetoric or whatever. But the leaders of Black Lives Matter have specifically and explicitly called for direct violence and incitement, and on their website they incite violence and use terms like destruction and destroy and burn down, and you have leaders of Black Lives Matter chapters defending the looting, saying that this is reparations. And not only have they caused billions of dollars worth of damage, let's talk about the deaths related to these riots. I don't want to take away from the cause completely, but it was definitely hijacked by agitators, anarchists, and troublemakers, whatever you want to call them, who took full advantage of it. And the Black Lives Matter, the leaders of these chapters, like I always say, they know this and they use it to their advantage. Like these are the people that they want part of the Black Lives Matter and all that. And like I said, man, you take the $1 billion worth of damage, and then you talk about the deaths. This article from The Guardian, it says at least 25 Americans were killed during protests and political unrest. I can name 2 off of my head who were black, but they weren't the blacks that most blacks would agree with, so they don't matter. David Dorn, a retired police officer, a police chief in St. Louis, who was murdered during during some looting. He did security at a friend of his like pawn shop and got the alert that it was being looted and broken into, and damn near as soon as he like got to it and stepped in and tried to help, they shot him. And you can find you used to find the video anyway, and you just see people just still walks like stepping over them with merchandise. That was part of some Black Lives Matter stuff. I think it had something to do with Breonna Taylor. Well, no, it might have been part of the whole George Floyd riots things. And then you got, like I mentioned before, Bromell Trammell, who was murdered in Chicago outside of his own store during a protest, loot, riot, whatever you want to call it. He just happened to be a hardcore Trump supporter. So I'm pretty sure we know why he was targeted. And all of the just harassment and things you've seen in the name of Black Lives Matter, and this Norwegian politician still felt the need that it will be warranted that they should be nominated for a Nobel Prize. And this just completely overshadows Stacey Abrams being nominated for a Nobel Prize, which I'm not necessarily saying she deserved that one either, but if BLM could win a Nobel Prize and somebody like Stacey Abrams, who actually did some real work, some on the ground work, can't win a Nobel Prize, then the Nobel Prize is a complete joke. I mean, they gave it to Obama. What did he do? What did Obama
so their
do?
credentials ain't too high already.
Clearly not. But nah. So this is the competition for the 2021 Nobel Peace Prize. Donald Trump.
Is that for real?
Yeah. Jared Kushner.
Who nominated him? Not the Norwegians.
Another Norwegian politician.
The right wing.
He actually has like 4 or 5 nominations.
Dude, could you imagine the head explosions if Trump wins?
I kind of hope he's doing it too.
Or even Jared Kushner, for that matter.
Jared Kushner was nominated as well. Stacey Abrams, BLM.
Is that the 4?
Yeah. That's like
I can't wait for this
all
one.
complete opposites. Like that's funny. But
Surprised Jeffrey Epstein wasn't nominated at this point.
But nah, the Stacey Abrams nomination makes sense though. The Stacey Abrams nomination makes sense. After
Trump's one does too.
yeah.
What he did with the Israel and the Middle East, some of those countries.
Israel, the UAE, Bahrain. There's more countries signing on to that.
Morocco.
Deal. Yep. That's literally the peace in the Middle East. I mean, I'm not sure how long it's going to last, but it's something.
Historically, not very long.
It's more than many other presidents has even attempted.
Most of my life, there's been some sort of war in that area. Like all the time.
Informative Reaction Podcast. 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 Informative Reaction Podcast.